Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shills, dead slaves, serfs, peasants, vassals, meat sacks. I'm a Useful Idiot. Welcome. And today I want to talk about Egypt and the election that has now proven without any doubt that the revolution never happened. And this is pretty sad to report. I know many of us were very enthralled by the events that unfolded in Egypt in the Arab Spring back in 2011, and to see this tug of war go back and forth in Egypt, only to end up in exactly the same place they started. Very sad state of affairs indeed. So we have this new election in General Sisi, who is the successor to all the other military dictatorships, including the deposed Mubarak. Is now running Egypt. And just as under Mubarak, the public is generally resigned. Very low voter turnout. They suspect below 50 to 40%. And although the people that did go out voted 90% for Sisi. And they want their security and they want their economy fixed. And probably isn't appropriate to apply this statement to Egypt, but those who sacrifice their liberty for security deserve neither. And this is what the Egyptian people want. And you can't really fault them in a way, because we've seen repeatedly throughout the Middle Eastern region, all these countries like Libya and like Syria and like Iraq, when you take away the strong man, you unleash the Sunni Shia showdown and all the ethnic rivalries from the post-colonial world. And so that would probably be Egypt's fate without a strong man. And so we have the Muslim Brotherhood completely outlawed again. And this is also a repeat of a cyclical event in Egyptian history of the last 50, 60 years. And going back further, I'm sure. And interestingly enough, the Muslim Brotherhood still has a 38% support rate in Egypt. So there's still a good portion of the population that is partial. But you will not hear anything from them after having 1,000 Muslim Brotherhood supporters killed during the suppression and 20,000 jailed. And in the infamous mass sentencing, 500 to 600 Muslim Brotherhood members to be executed. And this whole system in Egypt, of course, has been supported by the U.S. and more recently by the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, who got Egypt out of a very tough situation when the military took over. Had a coup to address the revolution. And revolutions are very easy to co-opt, so that's not a surprise either that we see the situation. But of course, the main reason why we're not surprised to see the situation in Egypt is because the military have always been in power. They've never been out of power. And even when the unexpected election of Morsi, the first honest election in Egyptian history, produced Morsi, and the military stayed in power. They made sure all their apparatus was protected under this new leadership. And then there's buyer's remorse and a concerted effort by the military and their supporters in Egypt to turn that Muslim Brotherhood victory from a democratic election and turn it back around and put the military back in power. So democracy has failed. What little taste of democracy that Egypt was able to taste has now failed. And one of the other things that's interesting about this situation with the military is that when they originally sided with the revolution and turned on Mubarak because they merely considered him a liability and ousted him supposedly on, quote, on behalf of the people, unquote. But that's just a ruse. They basically considered Mubarak a liability and the survival of the military, the Egyptian economic elites and the Egyptian officer corps elites in Egypt that actually run the country and whose interests this is all about. And of course, the icing on the cake is that the halt to U.S. money was only temporary, and apparently the U.S. aid is back on the fast track to Egypt. And, let's not forget that after Israel, Egypt has been the biggest recipient of U.S. foreign aid for some 30, 40 years. And it's essentially a bribe for them leaning towards the West, losing their Soviet sponsors, and becoming a somewhat of a vassal state for the United States. And I want to finish by talking about an article that I'm going to attach below by Andrew Bacevich. And he, for me, is one of the premier geopolitical analysts of our time. And it's an article called 50 Years of Plunder by the Egyptian Oligarchs Continues. And I read that after I put my notes together for this video. And he just, talks about the same thing. We have the Muslim Brotherhood being persecuted again. We have fake elections, military back control. Human rights are not an issue. And they shouldn't be, because let's remember that CIA rendition, one of the places that people were sent to be tortured was Egypt. So we like to have places that violate human rights so they can do some dirty work. And the other thing is the debt forgiveness for Egypt that went straight into the hands of the oligarchs in Egypt for Iraq war support, and sending a small enclave of Egyptian troops to aid in that operation, showing that Egypt was a good vassal state when needed to be. But most importantly for me, too, this shows that we have a really interesting, complex relationship between the United States and the Muslim Brotherhood in the Egyptian military, because I still purport that the Muslim Brotherhood was a organization that was at least backed, funded, and instigated in this event as Western puppets. And because the Bush administration in 2005 announced that things were going to have to change in Egypt, and that was the notification that things were going to, U.S. policy was going to change towards Egypt, and they were going to push for more human rights and more democratization. And Egypt military pretty much gave lip service to this, as they always have, and they do now, but it won't change the U.S. continuing to support them, and because they are the ones in power, and as long as they somewhat align themselves with U.S. interests, the U.S. likes things the way they are there. So too bad. What a disappointment. It's like the revolution never happened in Egypt. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.